A number of years ago, Dennis Ross came through and spoke to the Council about the need to use more diplomacy or tools of diplomacy in the world. And it seems that President Obama has taken that to heart, especially with respect to Iran. What is your take on how that's progressing and what role NATO does or might have in that?
I think that Dennis is a good friend. He wrote a very good book on statecraft and really did talk about, because we actually spent a lot of time together talking about which tool to use when. We spent, I think if I were to ask any of you if you'd like to spend a little time at Camp David, you might say yes. I can tell you after 2 weeks in the rain with the Israelis and Palestinians, I don't care if I ever go back, we used every conceivable tool in terms even of showing movies and taking people to Gettysburg and all kinds of things. I do think that what is going on now is, especially on Iran, a systematic use of the tools. It's very interesting. I do teach, and I'm able to lay out a lot of what is happening. So, for instance, on Iran, we have not had diplomatic relations with them. So trying to figure out what is going on internally is difficult. And so there is some usage of bilateral diplomacy by other countries. There has been a usage of the multilateral diplomacy, again, in terms of the United Nations and putting sanctions on them. We just talked about some of the financial ones. Then also what has happened is the international system with the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, has sent people in to try to figure out what the Iranians are doing. They're not getting the right answers, so they're going back to the Security Council. But what has happened, I believe, as a result of the economic tools, the sanctions, and the multilateral diplomacy, we are now in talks with Iran. The P5+1, which are the Security Council, the permanent members, and Germany, are talking with Iran. There was one set of talks in Istanbul, another one will happen in Baghdad. And in the meantime, President Obama made very clear to Prime Minister Netanyahu that containment was not good enough and never taking the military tool off the table. So I think that it is systematically working by not taking any option off the table. And it's very interesting to follow the discussion in Israel, for instance, where there seems to be some division in views about what ought to be going on, and even most recently a discussion about the possibility of elections in Israel, which then also might affect the way they feel about the use of the military option. But if it weren't, it is a dangerous situation, but it is interesting in kind of following out the usage of the toolbox.
Thank you.